It was supposed to be their reset button. Madison had found the listing at 2 in the morning, scrolling while Tyler slept on the couch and the city thundered outside their apartment windows. 6 months of routine had made them strangers who held hands out of muscle memory. A weekend away could bridge them back to each other. The cabin looked like the solution dressed in glass and cedar. A deck pouring into dark pines, a hot tub beneath string lights, floor-to-ceiling windows. The listing was called The Haven. The host's tagline made her chest flutter. Where privacy and passion meet. North Carolina? Tyler murmured the next morning, hair bent into sleep angles. Just for a weekend, she said. Look at this place. He studied the photos over her shoulder. Something tight in his face loosened. Book it. The drive south unspooled like a ribbon. By the time they turned onto the gravel driveway that wound through trees, the radio had given up, and there was only the rasp of stones under tires and green afternoon light. The cabin appeared like it had been placed by careful hands. Honey-colored cedar, black metal roof, windows that reflected the forest. A pearl-white BMW sat angled by the clearing's edge, chrome winking like a secret. Think that's the host? Tyler asked. Profile said self-check-in, Madison replied, though the BMW looked too polished for the wilderness, like a tuxedo at a picnic. Inside, the cabin smelled of cedar and new beginnings. A welcome note on thick paper sat on the coffee table. Make yourselves at home. I've stocked the firewood and left Bordeaux. Enjoy your stay, Greg. A basket held local chocolate and a candle labeled Evening Rain. They wandered separate rooms like strangers arriving at different times to the same party. The bedroom upstairs was glass on 2 sides, a view that promised to wake you dipped in morning light. When they met in the center of the living room, the silence wasn't hostile for once, just full. That night they let wine lay warmth down their throats. Tyler grilled steaks while Madison opened the local Bordeaux Greg had provided. They ate with legs touching, laughing when a moth body checked the porch light with drunken dedication. Later, the hot tub held them like a private weather system. Madison leaned back on the lip and watched constellations blink on, scattered beautiful Morse code across the sky. If we could pause this, Tyler said, voice roughened by warmth, I would. We could just not press play again, she smiled, become forest people. He kissed her, the kind that remembered them from before everything got complicated. The deck lights drifted in and out of focus like they were breathing together. In the bedroom afterward, they found each other in the half-dark because they knew how. It wasn't frantic or perfect, it was tender like learning the shape of a bruise. When quiet returned, she lay with her cheek on his chest, listening to his heart's slow animal rhythm. She was nearly asleep when she heard it, a tiny definite sound like a clock's inside turning over. A click, her eyes opened to darkness. Tyler's breath was a metronome. She held herself still, waiting for a second sound to confirm the first. Only forest silence pressed against the windows. Eventually, she slept. Morning pulled back the curtain on coffee steam and normal forest light. Tyler offered pancakes. She countered with eggs. While hunting for a mixing bowl in the lower cabinet, she found the first camera. At first it was just a black dot where black dots belonged, in the smoke detector mounted behind cookbooks. She frowned, climbed on a chair, leaned closer. The smoke detector was real, but there was another circle set into the plastic, small as a seed. When she breathed on it, fog slid off like breath off glass. Ty, she called. He came with eggs in hand. What's up? Is this? The word camera felt too big for the morning. Tyler climbed up, studied the device. They took it down with a screwdriver from the utility drawer. Inside was normal circuitry, plus something abnormal, a thumbnail-size board with a lens and cable leading into the wall. Tyler's curse was a whisper. No, they set it on the counter like a small dead animal. Madison felt something ringing in her ears, though there was no sound. The morning contracted. This has to be for security, Tyler said quickly, though his face disagreed. in the kitchen, pointed at the living area. Her voice shook. There's a camera watching the living area. They began searching without speaking. The bathroom mirror hid a second lens. The bedroom smoke detector housed a twin. Under the nightstand lamp, a pinhead of glass stared back from the brass neck. Madison felt sick, naked in a way that wasn't about skin. In her mind, the hot tub, her hand on Tyler's jaw, breathing his name like a bridge between them. In her mind, her body from above, pixelated into someone's collection. She opened the Airbnb app with trembling hands and messaged Greg. "Hi Greg, we found cameras inside your property. We need to talk now. Call me." She attached a photo of the cracked open smoke detector. He didn't reply. They packed because leaving felt like the only spell to undo a curse. Tyler's face was set into his mask for when things simply had to be done. Madison moved quickly, because stopping meant the images would lunge at her. In the living room, the TV was a dark mirror showing their reflection. Then Madison saw something that turned her body into a struck bell. The TV blinked, not on or off, but an almost invisible stutter, like a camera adjusting. "Tyler," she said, but the word didn't sound like a word. "Yeah?" He stood at the door with luggage. "The TV." They stared. Nothing happened. The screen showed them themselves. "Let's go," he said flatly. Her phone buzzed as they stepped off the deck. A message from Greg. His profile photo, a gray silhouette, looked suddenly like a dead person's joke. "I'm sure you're upset. Please don't call police. There's no need for mess. I have everything stored securely. I curate. I never release without consent." Madison's stomach turned fast. She typed through adrenaline tremors. "Delete it all. Now. We're calling police." Seconds later, "I'd rather not. You and your boyfriend are exquisite together. People don't understand how rare that is. You should see yourselves the way I do. I can send a sample." A photo arrived. The hot tub. Angle from above. Steam ghosted their faces. Tyler's hand on her shoulder. Her face turned toward him. Eyes closed. A square of what she thought was private looked up from her phone with perfect clarity. Tyler saw the photo over her shoulder. His face flooded red. "Get in the car." They didn't talk while gravel argued under tires. When the road curved toward the highway, the BMW sat parked across the exit like paleness in a mouth. Greg stood beside it, wearing a navy jacket and a banker's borrowed smile. He held his phone casually, like this was his driveway, and they were unscheduled delivery. Tyler braked hard. "Stay here," he said. "Don't." Madison grabbed his wrist. "Tyler." He opened the door before her last word finished. "Hi," Greg called lightly, as if this was neighborly. "Going so soon? The weekend's barely started." "Move your car," Tyler said quietly. It was the quiet of picking up rage by the wrong end. Greg cocked his head. "I will, once we agree on terms. You wouldn't want me sharing anything by mistake. Privacy is important to both of us." "You're sick," Madison said from the passenger seat. Greg's smile tilted toward sympathy. "Everyone says that when they first see themselves. It's understandable. We don't know how we look until we're shown. I'm a custodian of truth. I collect beautiful things." "Delete it," Tyler said. "I don't delete," Greg replied. "Deletion is a lie. Curation is art." Madison dialed 911 with clumsy fingers. Her voice stayed steady, giving the dispatcher their location. The words hidden cameras. The dispatcher's voice did all the right things. "Okay, ma'am, stay on the line. Help is coming. Here's what we'll do," Greg said, like proposing a carpool. "You'll go back and finish your weekend like nothing happened. I'll keep your files safe. I'll never share them without explicit consent." "Our consent is never," Madison said. "You think that now," he said, almost gentle. "But have you seen yourselves? You should. It's moving." From far off, a siren threaded the trees like red thread through green cloth. Greg's smile finally fell. "You made a mistake," he said, voice stepping around something sharp. He moved toward his car with practiced efficiency. The BMW opened its mouth. By the time the siren was close enough to touch, he was gone, white shape sliding between trees like a fish. The deputy who arrived looked gravity-trained. He listened, photographed the smoke detectors and secret-eyed mirror.
Another deputy circled the cabin with a device that chirped at invisible things. A stone-haired detective sat with them at the kitchen table, asking worn leather questions. "We only know Greg," Madison said. The name felt ludicrous. "Greg," the detective repeated like biting a coin to test its realness. County techs pulled 3 black boxes from behind the TV and baseboard, a local server and repeaters that glowed like insects. There were drives hidden behind a false bathroom panel. Someone had built this with dollhouse for ghost pleasure. At the sheriff's office, a woman with round glasses slid a tablet to the detective, who turned it so Madison could see. The interface was clean. Dates lined one column, room names another. Thumbnails were a gallery of unknown people being people in rooms. Some dates were old like tree rings. "We'll need to contact all of them," the detective said softly. "If we can." Tyler's hand found Madison's knee. "How many?" The detective looked at the screen like it had teeth. "Dozens. Maybe more once we decrypt the rest. The organized ones move properties, change listing names, swap co-hosts like hats. They make the internet tell stories you want to step into." "Will you catch him?" Madison asked, sounding like a child. The detective rubbed his nose bridge. "We'll put everything into it. He got sloppy today. Maybe that's the thread we need." Back in the city, their apartment looked like it had been waiting. Plant leaves angled toward windows practicing hope. Madison went room to room with her phone's flashlight like an ancient ritual, banishing spirits, looking for eyes. At 3 a.m. she woke to a noise she couldn't name, a click. She lay with eyes open, waiting for the second sound. It didn't come, which made it worse. 2 days later, the detective called with updates that weren't. The BMW was found wiped clean behind a mechanic's shop. Registration led to a ghost LLC in a P.O. box. The Haven listing vanished like a lifted pebble. Greg's profile melted to generic text. "This user is no longer active. Sometimes platforms help," the detective said, tired. "Sometimes they can't. I'll be honest, assume the footage exists in places we can't reach easily. The internet is a hydra. They tried returning to normal life like standing after a wave takes your feet." Madison went to work clicking open files, trying to care about layouts while her gaze snapped to corners. She flinched when coworkers laughed too loud. Thursday brought an email like a bruise blooming. No subject, just a link and password and sentence. "I thought you might finally want to see yourselves the way I do." She didn't click. She forwarded it to the detective with subject line, "He sent this." 3 more emails arrived from different addresses, men's names that were almost names. She blocked them like swatting flies. Next morning a letter slid under their door. No stamp because no mailbox. Inside, a still of the hot tub, their faces toward each other, her hand on his jaw. Bottom sentence, "The camera always loved you, M." The detective came with a paper bag. Took the letter like live wire. "We'll put a patrol by," he said. Words like plywood nailed over windows before storms. Madison stopped looking at her reflection full on, preferring peripheral versions. She stopped sitting on the couch with TV off because it became a black portal waiting to show movies she hadn't consented to star in. Tyler tried being the ground. He made dinner, remembered to ask about her mother, suggested Sunday hikes. He held her when 3 a.m. clicks came like ghosts checking if the living still lived there. 2 weeks after the letter, Madison walked past the dog park and stopped because the man leaning on the fence looked like wrong recognition. Navy jacket, sunglasses, neat jawline. He turned slightly and she saw his mouth's corner lift, not a smile but its ghost. She took her phone out, pretended texting, centered him, captured him, hit the button. Her phone made an honest, open click. The photo was nothing. Sunglasses, coat, any man. When she looked up, he was gone. At home, the detective placed her image on a screen with others. The screen couldn't find a face to match because the world is full of faces. "Keep routines but not exactly," he said. "Tell your door person. If you have to talk yourself out of calling me, call me." Months later, 11:07 p.m., unknown number called. She picked up because she'd become someone who picked up. "Madison," the voice said like a recording practicing being human. "I wanted you to hear from me. The world will see you, but only the right part. I've been very careful. Only patrons who understand art." "Stop," she said, voice like tightening wire. "Do you know what they say? The camera adds 10 pounds. I think it subtracts 10 lies. If you put anything online." "You'd what?" he asked curiously. Sue Shadows. The men who want this clean don't use the internet, you know. They have kitchens behind kitchens. She sat because her legs became ideas about legs. Why us? Because he said with fever-checking sincerity, you love each other. She hung up, called the detective, stood at the window looking at the city that didn't know about her. Next morning, a college friend across the country sent a screenshot. Are you okay? Beneath was a pixel-blurred image of deck and hot tub, and two people who could be anyone with faces that could be theirs. A brand selling smart locks had posted it captioned like morality tale. Always check for hidden devices when traveling. Comments crawled underneath, worlds of certainty and doubt. The detective called before she could. We're on it. The brand's being irresponsible, but it'll come down. It already exists elsewhere, she said, meaning the kind that shivered under floorboards. I know. We'll cut off every head we can see. Weeks became practice. The detective sent updates about shapes of men and threads of money, and servers named like machine nurseries. Once he called saying they'd tied Blue Finch to networks spanning 12 properties in 4 states. Madison sat on a curb and cried because 12 was too many. On a Sunday they drove out, walked a trail framing a river. It was soft day, light arriving without announcing itself. They held hands, ate pedestrian sandwiches that tasted good because they were outside. A dog ran past with dog joy, and Madison laughed like before, not all the way, but enough to point and say there. At 3 a.m. the click came again. She opened her eyes, turned toward the smoke detector's pale coin shape. Her mind showed her a lens there, though she knew there was none. She got up, poured water, put her palm on the counter, whispered to the room, I'm still here. New Year's Day, the detective called at noon with light in his voice. We found him. He was in Kentucky under a different name. New listing. A task force picked him up. Computers. Drives. Bad personality. You'll get a call from the ADA. She said thank you, walked to Tyler, nodded. He let out breath that had lived in his body since North Carolina. They held each other like pressing news into skin. They didn't cheer. They stood and breathed, and felt weight shift. Court months followed. Corridors with tile floors, vending machines, paper smell, parade of men in borrowed-looking shirts. Other couples met their eyes with helpless solidarity of people bent the same way. There was Greg in a suit sitting with hands folded, face arranged into neutral mask, preparing to explain art to a jury. Madison testified, said hidden camera, and bedroom, and hot tub, and the room listened. Tyler said consent, like pinning it to walls. The verdict came Wednesday afternoon. Guilty on counts adding up to a cage not long enough for justice but long enough for fact. After, they stopped at the small park, sat on the good bench in weak sun, watched a kid in red hat figure out swing physics. The world continued its ferocious business of being the world. At home, Madison set keys in the dish, took breath that went all the way down and back. She stood in the hallway looking at smoke detector, mirror, TV, all the surface things. Nothing clicked. In bed that night, she lay watching the ceiling's pale square. Tyler's hand found hers under sheets, and they laced fingers like old couples, like people who'd seen themselves from unchosen angles and decided to keep choosing anyway. At 3 a.m. she woke not to sound, but to quiet, new kind of quiet. She waited for the click. It didn't come. She smiled in dark, then thought of the cabin and could smell cedar if she wanted. Saw deck lights stringing night into necklaces. Saw hot tub steam writing and erasing itself like all stories do. Saw her own face turned toward Tyler's, not from above or hidden angles, but reflected in his pupils when close enough to count eyelashes. Morning came ordinary and brave. She made coffee, opened the window, let air in. On the counter lay a draft of victims' rights bill they were helping push. Words like restitution and obligation underlined small blueprint for slightly better future. Her phone buzzed with unknown number. Old cold slid up her spine like shadow, remembering how to stand. She looked. Woman in Asheville whose name she didn't recognize. You don't know me, but I think I stayed at same cabin 6 months before you. Saw your testimony online. Just wanted to say thank you. If you ever want to talk, I'm here. Madison stood at sink with morning light spilling across wrists like warm water. Felt something like network that wasn't web. Not sticky or hungry, but strong and kind. She typed back, yes, I'm here too. That night, when apartments settled, and day backed into closets and dark came to sit without asking, she lay next to Tyler and didn't wait for clicks. She breathed.
fell asleep. If somewhere a hard drive dreamed electrical dreams, if some room hummed with 1,000 small machines, she didn't hear it. The sound inside her head had changed. It was sound of door closing and window opening, sound of her choosing what to keep,